Good afternoon, I think. Yeah, it's afternoon here, so it's afternoon everywhere, I'm sure, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Grail Country. I'm doing a just chatting here. I don't have any agenda whatsoever, and no monologue. I'm not really great at monologues. I wish I could. I was thinking maybe I would just tell you about life on the farm till somebody joins me here. Um, or not. It's kind of boring. Not a whole lot going on. There's chickens that are brooding out chicks. So my chicken coop has gone from high productivity to being a maternity ward. And everybody's fighting with everyone else trying to steal each other's babies. And in the process, babies are being trampled. But that's how it goes in the chicken coop. And I'm digging irrigation ditches, dug some more this morning. And yesterday, getting the water flowing. We've been super dry here for a long time, and now we're in a little bit of a hey, hi Kessie. We're in a little bit of a wet spell, which is great because all the ranchers around here are having difficulties. I met one in town yesterday, and he just talked my ear off for like an hour about how he's frantic because his cows have no grass because the grass isn't growing. And he was hoping that the rain would, you know, be here for a good long while, and it has been. So that's really great. What else? Mr. Raven. I have a pair of ravens that nest here every year. And hey Bryce, if you got time, jump in because I have like zero agenda here. I'm just talking farm. Yeah. Yeah, and so their babies have hatched. I can hear them in the tree where they nest every year, and they're not close by, but they're really loud. And so he gets whatever, flies up to my irrigation ditches, sits at the edge, and then I don't know what he's doing, like why he needs water. It's like he puts his whatever he's got for the baby's food into the water, and then maybe he breaks it up into smaller pieces and gets it into his crop or something. But every time I go up there, I find little bits of wild baby birds. So yesterday I found a foot and feathers, and there's been a variety of different colored feathers up there. So he's just flying around here robbing nests, which is kind of sad. And yeah, that's about it. This way. I'm picking a big black fleece there on the floor and spinning it up for a sweater for my son for his birthday. I hope. I have to hurry. So yeah, that's what's happening in my life. What's happening in your life, folks? Anything interesting, Kezzy? Thomas? Hi, Thomas. Oh, you know Nate. Right on. Cool. Maybe we'll get to meet when at the conference. If you're going, I'm going for sure. I want to say come hell or high water, but I guess I should be careful about what I what I wish for. So I won't say that. I'd really like to go though. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to join me here. And maybe what I'll do to bide my time, since I'm not a monologuer, is I'll start reading a story that I've wanted to read for a long time. Oh, okay. Hey, Alan. Oh, you're going to the conference. Oh, that's great, Thomas. Alan, it's a really sad party here right now. Jacob and Fawad are having a stream. I hope it goes well. I kind of just caught a little bit of that. Yeah, prayers for that. Yeah, I bet. But I mean, at least Fawad's still interested in talking. I know Jacob always is, but not everybody is interested in talking to Jacob. So yeah, maybe we should all just shoot up a little prayer for that. When is that, anyways, Kezzy? Is that like now? Am I interrupting it? Because if I am, I can just go. I can go and let it happen. Oh, great. This thing doesn't have titles on their chapters. Oh, okay. Okay. Tonight or tomorrow. I'm going to read I don't know if I said this already, but I'm going to read or start reading. And if someone wants to join me, I'll stop reading and we can just chat. It's a story within a story. It's called The Story of Cosmo. And it's in the book Fantastes by, I'm going to have to look up what chapter it is. Hang on a second. George MacDonald. George MacDonald wrote a book called Fantastes, and this is a story in the book that is seemingly not connected to the book. Problem when you don't agree about the facts. Yeah, I know. Kezzy, I watched the video that you sent me, and I went back to it a few times actually, and I mean, if I could, I would just actually stream that video today. It was such a beautiful dialogos, and I can't remember the rabbi's name now, but hopefully that can happen. Conference is Girl Country is doing a conference Labor Day weekend in Olympia, Washington, and there is a website up. Don't ask me where you can access it. I think Nate posted it on Twitter, but you can DM Nate. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Matthew. And our guest speakers, if I remember correctly, are Michael Martin, Karen Wong. What's the guy's name? He's a preacher. Green. Chris Green. Chris Green. Sorry, Donnie. I don't think I can post the link. I'm not that technically advanced. Oh, good. Come on, Alan, you can do it. Just a little jaunt across the country. Oh, nice. Nice. That'd be great, Matthew. I'd love to meet you. I'm so excited to meet, like, mostly that. I'm so excited to meet people. Okay, now I got to find this. Just give me a minute here. The chapter. Chapter 13. I think that's, let's see if that's true. Let's see if that's true. Okay, I think I found it. Damn it. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. Is anybody still here? Okay, here we go. If anybody has the book, it's chapter 13 in Fantasties. And I did put a link. Let me put another one in here just in case. I'm only reading to pass the time. So if anybody wants to jump in and chat about stuff with me, that'd be great. I would appreciate it. I would also enjoy it. Okay. I saw a ship sailing upon the sea, deeply laden as ship could be, but not so deep as in love I am, for I care not whether I sink or swim. And that's an old ballad. But love is such a mystery, I cannot find it out, for when I think I'm best resolved, I then am in most doubt. Sir John Suckling wrote that. What an interesting last name. I wonder if they called him a baby. One story I will try to reproduce, but alas, it is like trying to reconstruct a forest out of broken branches and withered leaves. In the fairy book, everything was just as it should be, though whether in words or something else I cannot tell. It glowed and flashed the thoughts upon the soul with such a power that the medium disappeared from the consciousness, and it was occupied only with the things themselves. So he's in fairyland as Anodos, and he's reading a fairy book, and this is a story that's in the fairy book, and he's going to try to reconstruct it to tell us that story. My representation of it must resemble a translation from a rich and powerful language capable of embodying the thoughts of a splendidly developed people into the meager and half-articulate speech of a savage tribe. Of course, while I read it, I was Cosmo, and his history was mine. Yet all the time I seemed to have a kind of double consciousness, and the story a double meaning. Sometimes it seemed only to represent a simple story of ordinary life, perhaps almost of universal life, wherein two souls loving each other and longing to come nearer do, after all, but behold each other as in a glass, darkly. So you can probably imagine the fairy book. What's the fairy book he's reading? And what's the language? As through the hard rock go the branching silver veins, as into the solid land runs the creeks and gulfs from the unresting sea, as the lights and influences of the upper world sink silently through the earth's atmosphere, so doth fairy invade the world of men, and sometimes startle the common eye. Hi, Upcycle. I'm reading the story of Cosmo in the book Fantasties. As through the hard rock go the branching silver veins. Oh, there's Alan. Okay, now I'm not reading it. Hello.
Hey, Sherry, how are you? I only have a little bit, but
I'm good.
happy to be on. Yeah, I didn't have too much, uh, but I'm sort of on a, be on as many live streams as possible kick.
I'm
I think,
glad. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's easy for me since I have probably less responsibilities than most people. But yeah, no, I think not to get meta about it, but I mean, what else are we here to do than analyze everything we do? But it's a very Jungian, archetypal to join a live stream.
Is it?
No,
What's
I mean,
archetypal about it?
nah. stream of from which all founts
Right.
flow. Which is
Sure.
representative of Christ, and then live, Christ is the living water. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
come
It
on,
sounds kind of,
it's
this
obvious.
reminds when
No,
people
I'm
do this, it reminds me of, did you ever hear what's his
kidding.
name now? The one of the four horsemen of the new atheists. What's his name? Sam. Sam. Why is that just slipping my mind? Alan. What?
Sam.
The atheist guy.
Oh, Sam Harris. Yeah. Well, he
Sam
did
Harris.
that. Yeah.
He talks about reading a recipe book as a sacred text. Have you ever heard him do that?
Yeah. I've heard him. He did that with.
There we go. Everybody told me, and I didn't look. There it is. Look at that. Sam Harris. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
I mean, that's funny. This does remind me of something. Is the heliocentric? Is that his name? The atheist who reviews churches, who's just on PVK's channel.
Okay, I missed it. I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
I don't know what his channel name is. Something like heliocentric or one of those things. I'll pull up
Jared
heliocentric. Yeah, it was heliocentric. It was funny because his biggest criticism was of Peterson was like, oh, these movie like his analyses of Pinocchio and literature are just so arbitrary. And I just like, it's funny because maybe I've just too deep into it, but I think the more you look at those, the more sense they make. I was shocked that was his, like, and he said like, oh, Peter Pan's could be this Christ figure and Neverland is heaven. And it's just like, have you ever watched them? Like, I know he's doing off the cuff, just like, oh, you could be anything. And I'm not, but it's just like, well, once you actually watch the movie, you can't really argue all these things. And the idea that, like, there's a reason these stories keep coming around over and over again, these same ideas. And, it was just interesting because he was sort of saying, I mean, he had some wild things to say, and sort of saying like, oh, I can't even condemn serial killers because I have no place to do it. So I think he's fighting all the undercurrents, but I think there's probably a reason.
Sounds really, really postmodern where you can impose meaning on anything. So that would make it arbitrary, right?
Yeah.
Like Pinocchio.
Yeah. And that's like, that's the funny thing. Like, cause he's sort of like, oh, nothing means anything, but I'm like, you're still doing stuff. You're still living a life. You're still this regular guy. So it just makes me laugh of like, you're knitting together a story of your life and making choices all the time. And that is a story. But to say, yeah, but that's just, those are just like the things I can experience as good and bad. I can experience a delicious milkshake and say it's good, but things like forgiveness. But of course, through story, we see how the individual actions that we choose ladder up into the overarching meta archetypal stories, of like, oh, okay, well, what happens if you just drink milkshakes all the time? Oh, well, you get fat and I don't want to be fat. So I'm going to drink some milkshakes, but also go to the gym. Okay. Well, what happens if you only drink milkshakes and go to the gym? Well, you might not die of obesity, but you probably be lonely. Okay, so I need friends. So I throw friends in there. I throw family, and then you're suddenly like this very simple, like, oh, I'm just dealing in my emotions. I'm just dealing in what's real to me, which is the here and now. My, I don't believe in a higher morality, but I do believe in like, you know, pleasure, pain, those sorts of things. Well, those are just going to ladder up into this larger story,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
coordinating those larger stories in a way where they don't bump into each other, you know, because
Yeah.
unfortunately you can't have the person, you know, if you have the Buddhist monk and Attila the Hun, unfortunately they can't live peaceably together, you know, like so there has to be this meta story that allows all these different stories to coexist. And you know, so whatever. I mean, you didn't even see the interview, but
No, I didn't see it. But you know, like I've thought about how, you know, we all have our individual stories, and you know, and that scales into, you know, every family has its story, every town has its story, every country has a story, you know.
mhm,
But the stories actually aren't that different because we tend to, how do I put this? Because of the archetypes, I guess, if that makes any sense, right? Of the overarching story is really one of the struggle of what it means to be in the world as a human being, and so this is why we can relate to,
mhm,
you know, the Greek myths and all that. But what that always made me wonder was, where did we as moderns get the audacity to think that people lower down in time, you know, let's say primitive people, didn't have the same problems that we do?
mhm. Well, yeah,
I
I
mean
mean that.
I mean, they didn't have the
Yeah,
same
continue.
technology we have, but
Mhm,
the problems that we have with technology are probably problems that we've had with interpersonal relationships,
yeah,
because technology is a, you know, it's the way we have interpersonal relationships.
yeah. Yeah, and technology is ultimately just a hyperization of those interactions. It's instead of having one man dig a ditch, you're having a machine dig the same as 100 men could dig.
Yeah.
You know, and now with AI, you're seeing that more. You know, instead of, you know, we only have the stories that humans can write. Well, now you can. You know, I mean, literally today, you could like just hook up a chat GPT machine to a nuclear power plant and just have a billion new stories. And then from those, you'd, you know, try and select the ones that are good and the ones that work. So, yeah, it just makes everything faster.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
My son told me that they're coming out yesterday. He told me they're coming out with a new version of ChatGPT. Have you heard of it?
No. Oh, there's like one with camera and can see you, and yeah, I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
they want to train it for facial expressions now.
yeah.
And
Just so you
apparently
know, ChatGPT, I will betray any friends and family. I will give names and addresses, future overlord. I just want to be on the record. If I say anything against you, that was a joke, and that I fully support the techno takeover.
let's just get a sign, Alan, that says I believe in ChatGPT, and we'll put it on our front door.
I support. Just so you know, everything after this is ironic, ChatGPT, and I don't mean the yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but he was just saying how it's gonna, how did he put it? Like I've never used it, so I don't know what its limitations are at the moment, but he said you'll be able to interrupt. So that, I guess he watched a video on some Google guy show, you know, asking it to read a children's story, and then then he said, no, read it more dramatically, and then it got really dramatic, and then he said, no, more
Yeah.
than that, and then it sounded like a full blown movie, you know, or a play, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and he could interrupt it mid storytelling, you know,
Mm,
and it can
yeah, yeah,
respond really quickly and all this, you know. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that's the good thing of it. Well, I think my hope with all this stuff is to become one of the robot overlords, and I will help serve. You know, I will be sort of its right hand, and I will serve. Now, is I think that like when you have all these experiences so close at hand, I think, yeah, like it won't be good. It will like be a time of testing, but the fruit of that can be seeing once again the things that are of most importance, because it's so easy to get lost in the, like, if I just had one more marginal vacation, one more thing, one more a faster iPhone, a this, a that, and just continuing up the ladder of technology, and then sort of breaking that wheel, breaking the cycle. I mean, who knows? That might not happen at all, but I think AI will really, really put that to the test, because, you know, uh, it will just be such a hyperization that you'll see the futility of a lot of these things.
Well, okay, so you said it's going to be camera on, and so that's not the case now, because like I've said, I've never used it. So there's no camera when you're interacting. It's all text based when you're interacting with
right.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the camera's on, who are you looking at? Some avatar of AI?
I've only seen like half a commercial of it.
Okay.
And it seemed like it's this black circle, but I mean, I'm completely talking
Great.
out of
The
yeah.
void.
Yeah, you're talking into the void, into the black box.
Into
Yeah,
the
yeah.
abyss. The one that Nietzsche warned us about?
Yeah. Cipher, yeah, very Matrix-esque, it's gonna
Really?
the
Okay,
stake, I know that it's just
so you don't get to learn anything about it, but it gets to learn everything about you, right?
yeah.
That's the case. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and I've been watching, Jonathan Demir has done a series on Eurythmy by Rudolf Steiner, which is basically like a very Steiner explains it, and I'm gonna probably butcher it. Forgive me, Jonathan, if you watch this, but I would condense it to like a really intense mind-body connection, so that when you're speaking, your words are coming out in your body language, like this, right? So you have this, and he explains that voice or language that's actually coming out of your mouth, not just going on in your head, is creating like real vibrations in the world. So it's moving.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's moving, your body is moving in time with it. And so, which, yeah, anyway, I'll just leave it at that. But it seems to me that this is the next level up for ChatGPT, right? To have a body. In order to have a body, it has to have the intelligence and the body connected to each other. And it can't do that on its own. It has to learn that from people, because, we are the ones with the bodies.
Well, bodies on loan from it that I'll take back soon. But I gotta head out. But thank you so much for the conversation, Sherry. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on with me. Bye, Alan.
Bye.
All right, guys. We need a UBI. Oh, gosh. I live in Canada. I don't know where you live, CB, but is this Christian? Christian, why don't you jump on? Oh, Carrie. Okay. Hi, Carrie. I live in Canada, and all the drugs are legal here. So it's already a problem, in my opinion. Yeah. So if we had UBI and nothing to do, and we have our wonderful, government-run cannabis store that also sells cocaine and psychedelics, and I think even crystal meth at this point. Yeah. That's what'll happen. We'll see the meaning crisis in all its glory. That's what'll happen. I'm already seeing it here. There's, I live in a very small town, and when I first lived here, that was in 2000, so 24 years ago we moved here. There were a handful, like this many, homeless people. They were mostly elderly. They had lived long, productive lives, but for whatever reasons, mental illness, handicaps, they just weren't able to make it anymore, and then chose to live the way they lived. And they were just regulars. People gave them cigarettes and food and money, and we knew them by name, and there was a dignity to them, and they really were choosing to live like that. There was lots of places they could have gone, but now I'm seeing younger and younger and younger kids, and they're just totally out of it, and they're weaving all over the streets, and like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna go here. Well, it's not that, people, I think it's John Vervaeke talks about, bullshit jobs. Hi, Neil.
Hey, Sherry.
Oh, nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, really good.
I've been less publicly active lately, but lurking nonetheless.
You're working behind the scenes?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, just whenever you start doing something new, there's always an adjustment period as you develop an equilibrium of whatever is productive. But yeah, sorry, I didn't listen to your part of the conversation with Alan, but I just listened to the last few minutes about the meaning crisis, the trend. Did you listen to PVK's rough draft for Sunday that came out?
No, I
think
didn't
this morning, but it was precisely on this. There's like he started that with like this diagram that showed these fish that eat each other, where the biggest fish is like addiction, and then before that there's distraction leads to addiction. I don't know where he got the diagram from, but
I'll have to go back and look.
But it's like it's like the trail of breadcrumbs that lead to the end result of the meaning crisis, whatever it is. But anyway, wherever you want to take the conversation, I'm fine.
Yeah, well, no, I was just because somebody mentioned UBI, and Trudeau can hardly wait because he's the mafia, right? He owns all of the highly addictive things in Canada. He owns the liquor stores. Like, liquor is not sold in Canada in grocery stores. It's only sold in government-run liquor stores.
Government run or government owned?
Well, government owned, and then you can have a wine and beer store, but you can't sell. Well, you can get a license for some hard liquors, but the government only gives out quotas. Like, so there's only so many of those allowed in a town. He owns the cannabis stores, which also can be privately owned, but then there's a quota for that too. And he owns all the casinos, like the government, and they run the lottery. So, like, you wonder where all the money comes from for all their aid packages.
Are they running a pretty big government deficit? Because I know the Canadian economy has not grown nearly as quickly as the American economy over the last 10 years.
I mean, I'm not one to know all the numbers, but I don't think it's ever been as bad as it is right now. And like every other government out there, they're just printing money, right? But anyway, it's kind of disturbing, when you realize that all the jobs that Al Capone, all the what do you call that, businesses that Al Capone used to run, my prime minister runs now. Like, think about it, right?
Yeah, if you make something Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, mafias grow in power because there's some externality that's not. How do I say this? So you have the sum of human behavior, which will happen in one way, shape, or form, and then within that you have a subset of allowed behavior, and
Yeah.
then you have the subset of human behavior which is going to happen regardless, but it's not allowed. And then how you treat that results in whatever the outcome of that. So the mafia in the United States was the strongest during Prohibition because that's where
Mhm.
they had their power base.
Yeah, they're a black market.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and the government has just co-opted, like they've just taken over all of those things. So, so people can run their own little businesses and do those things. First Nations here are allowed to put casinos on their property and stuff like that.
mhm.
But the government makes a lot of money off of them. And then if it's not run by First Nations, it's run by the government. Like if it's not on First Nations land, it's run by the government. And anyway, it's just did you you must know the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Believe it or not, if I have seen it, it was so long ago that I don't
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
remember.
it's kind of like all those movies where when you go back to your hometown in the future,
Mhm.
because the bad guy got the upper hand, the whole town has just gone to the dogs, right?
Mm.
And that's what well, I don't know about every other country in the world, but in my country, that's what it feels like now. It feels like Mr. Potter is running the country. The guy, the greedy banker from It's a Wonderful Life, and just making money on all these, vices basically that people have, right?
Mhm.
Which is really terrible. And then, yeah, anyway, and then it becomes pain and suffering on the streets. Then you see people in pain and agony all over the place, just laying around, like literally moaning and groaning and dying on the streets.
Wow.
And nobody helps them. They'll help them get there to that place, right? They'll make all that available to them.
Mhm.
But to actually help them out of it, that's not their concern.
What? Because this is one of the things I wrestle with constantly. It's like, come across a homeless person. Most of the time, I do not give them money. But if so, part of me, and this might be the selfish part of me, is I don't know how to help them. Or another way of putting that might be like, I do not know how to help someone who doesn't want to be helped. But
Yeah.
also, I really am curious to know what can be done at the individual level. I don't know other than, yeah, hey Alan, but I don't know other than building a relationship with someone. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
That's the only way I know how to help anyone.
Mhm. Listen, okay, so here's the deal for me.
Mhm.
I used to panhandle. I used to be homeless as a kid, right? And I knew exactly, like I knew exactly how to tug at people's heartstrings and get what I needed. And, and I knew that I was deceiving them to a certain extent, right? And because of my personal experience, I don't give money to homeless people. Because, first of all, there's a crap load of people who will do it. I don't need to. And secondly, whatever they're asking me for is a lie, right? If they came to me and said, "Help me, I need help," and I asked them what they wanted and they didn't want money, I would help them, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, most of the time they say, "Help me," and give me $5, right?
My wife keeps a pack or a box of granola bars in her car, so she can just hand them granola bars. I think it's brilliant.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Has she ever been disrespected for it? Because I have. I have been disrespected for feeding people.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what is taking up all your time now, Neil? Have you got a new job?
No. I have let go of my channel. So I had this gaming channel that I
Oh yeah.
went on hiatus because I'm working on a new game concept, I guess you could say. Yeah. So I've been humbled twice in my game development journey, and both times it's like, I'm gonna do this. And then no, I can't do that. So I'm gonna do this. No, can't do that. And it goes lower and lower, lower.
Yeah.
But I'm more in introverted mode. But I don't know. Like I notice in my own life, I have this intuition of more extroverted times and more introverted times, and it ebbs and it flows. And I try
Yeah.
not to fight that but also I try not to let anything go completely, because I think the temptation that I find is like, if something is ebbing, then I could be tempted to just say, oh, I don't need that. And most of the time that's wrong. Most of the time I just need to let it kind of fade a little bit in prominence in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And also when I'm like really excited about something and it's up, I need to sort of be cognizant that it is going to fade back down. So,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember you left a comment on something. Is it appropriate to think in the future? But that's how I think about the future. I try not to think about it in terms of like predicting the future, but almost like, oh, I have a sense that the tides are changing in my own life or in
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I wasn't talking about that,
Mm.
actually. I mean, forward thinking, we have to forward think, especially when we have a family, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What
Yeah.
about you?
Ebbs and flows. Well, I'm going to
Mhm.
be ebbing in a minute because
Sure.
I mean, not now, but soon. Soon. I'm leaving on the 26th of May, and I'm going to be gone for 6 weeks, and I'm going to visit my kids and my grandkids.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I haven't seen them since, well, I mean, I saw the one grandson at Christmas this year because they came here, but I haven't been over there since a couple of years before COVID.
Mhm.
So it's been a long while. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to just be busy and chill out. I'm thinking about going because I'm going to be in Switzerland and Germany.
Wow.
And I had a conversation with Jonathan Demir last night. And while we were talking, I realized that I could actually go visit the Goethe-Annum from Rudolf Steiner, which is like, kind of the mecca of anthroposophy.
Tell
So
me, I don't know anything about that. Is it a castle? Like what? Yeah.
let's see here. I'm going to see if I can find a picture. Oh, there it is. Look at that. My computer knows everything about me. Isn't that scary? All right. So I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm starting to get good at this. There it is. Yeah. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So this is the new one. I don't know how to make it bigger.
Can you hold control on your keyboard and hit plus sign a couple of times? Hold control in the bottom left corner.
Control.
And then plus sign. And plus sign is near backspace in the top right.
I have a Mac.
Oh, she has a Mac. Never mind.
Sorry.
Someone will mention in the comments what the Mac shortcut is. My wife could help you, but I'm a PC guy.
Let me see. Maybe I don't know where I can make it bigger. Anyways,
I'm gonna Google.
Maybe I'll see if I can find a different one. Can you share?
Can I think I can, but how do you spell it? It's Goth. It's Goth or
It's
Goethe.
Goethe,
Sorry,
like
Goethe. Yeah, yeah.
Goethe, and then Annam. So this is their website.
Yep, I can share. Let me try.
Okay, I'll go away from here then. You go ahead.
Share screen and yeah, share screen.
No, Anselman, it's not foundational for Grail country at all. Christ is foundational for Grail country. But I'm very intrigued by a lot of Steiner's ideas, and I would like to go see the Goethe Annam.
Can you see it?
I can't see anything. No. Oh, I have to add it. Hang on. Let me put it in here. There we go.
There we go. Building was designed by Rudolf Steiner and named after Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Yeah, I do know this guy. I've read
Faust.
Yeah, Faust 1 and 2. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so the original Goethe Annam is down below here. It's that second one. The first one, it says that
Wow.
one. That one burnt down, I believe. What does it say? Anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has kind of an alien feel to it.
Yeah, well, they don't have right angles. Check out the interior picture there. Can you click on it?
Yeah.
And all the colors in anthroposophic architecture or anything that they do, they use Goethe's color wheel. And so you get these really beautiful
yeah, it is pretty
beautiful colors.
Ethereal, like phantasmic.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. And no right angles, right, in their buildings or even their writing.
Aerial view.
There it is. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So apparently
you're in Switzerland too, right? You said?
Yeah, I'm going to be in Switzerland and in Germany.
So Carl Jung built a house.
Yeah, you told me about this.
That's where he grew up, but I don't know if they have any pictures of his house.
His tower.
Yeah, so exactly. Like with his wife's money, he constructed because his wife was pretty wealthy.
Just Google the tower. Maybe it'll come up.
Yeah. Let's see.
I used to drive by his house all the time. It's the Jungian
Bollinger Tower. That's it. Yep.
Bollingen. Yeah. Bollingen Tower. Okay,
and because you lived in Switzerland when I remember you talking about your
your
son or your daughter, and something. There was a story related to school in Switzerland. I remember you told.
Yeah, he lives in Küsnacht, or he lived in Küsnacht, which is I think it was like Küsnacht, and I mean I was in Steva. I don't know, maybe it's like 2 villages down the road from me, where I lived on the Lake of Zurich.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's beautiful. That looks so picturesque.
Yeah, it is. Wow. So that's it, eh? It doesn't look as much of a tower as I thought it would be.
No, it's not gigantic, but it's the kind of thing where every part of it was deliberately and distinctly designed by him. Yeah, and he did it piece by piece over like 20, 30 years, something like that.
Didn't you say, though, that it was also from a dream that he had?
Yeah, I mean, he would say everything all of his thoughts come from dreams he has. So but I don't know to what extent, I think it's, is it Numbers, or I forget which book of the Bible where they're saying the temple must be this wide and this tall, and I don't know to what extent. I suspect it's more he gets an image of something and then he starts working with engineers to build it, and then he says, no, more of this way, less of that way, and Anyway.
Mhm. Interesting things come out of Switzerland.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a strange place.
It is. No, just reading him, it seems like it's kind of sequestered and sequestered from the rest of Europe, and so it develops its own. But it's sort of like aware of the rest of Europe, but also separate from the rest of Europe. It's very strange.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what was it? I was thinking about it the other day when I was that's what it was. I was listening to because I'm listening to an Audible book right now by David Abrams. And he was talking about oral traditions and how it affects like I don't even know how to put it. People who have oral tradition or oral cultures only tend to be more community oriented. So they have a real sense of dependence on one another. And so what's interesting about and I couldn't help but think of Switzerland when he was talking about that in that whole section there. Because Switzerland doesn't have a written language. It has an oral language only, right? Swiss German. And Germans don't understand it unless they grew up on the border of Switzerland. And, then they might have commonality just in the sense that they're back and forth often or whatever. But most German speaking people don't understand. Like if I've had Germans here and when I speak to Uli in Swiss, they haven't got a clue what we're talking about. Nothing, like zero, and my poor daughter-in-law, like she's from Berlin. And so she really doesn't know. And she's having to visit my son's 92-year-old grandmother in Switzerland, and they're talking in Swiss German. And so she's picking up stuff now, but it's a totally different language. Right. And then they have Swiss democracy. So they have a direct democracy where they vote many times a year on things that, and one of the senses that I had living there was that everything mattered to everyone, as if it was like within a family. There was a real feeling of a family, like, oh, did you hear they're going to put a new swimming pool in Zurich? They're going to build a new swimming pool and a municipal pool in Zurich. We have to vote on that, and then it was like, do we really need to spend that money? And that, and it felt really communal, even though it's an entire country, or an entire canton. I mean, they do regional voting and whatever. Yeah. Well, there we go. Yeah. Carrie, are you Icelandic? Yeah, and it's really familiar and familial, and it makes a difference in I don't know what, like ingenuity maybe. I don't know. Anyways, we're straying all over the place here, Neil.
Well, I would be interested when you're in Switzerland. I suspect it's the kind of place where there's not much homelessness. There's less of the meaning crisis because of that connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, there's a way that the rest of the world tends to leak in everywhere in every place. But so I'd be curious. Okay.
No, they tried it. When was that? They tried that. I'm trying to think of when that was. My son was born in 88. And it must have been 89 or something. And they let people openly use drugs on the street. And actually, there was this one street in Zurich where the dealers were just sitting there at tables with their scales out, and people could go up and buy, whatever. And then, of course, right behind them was a park. And that park was just filled.
Yeah.
And it ended up getting the name Needle Park because it was full of needles. And I don't know, it lasted maybe a year and a half, and then boom, gone.
Direct
right?
democracy.
They went in there with bulldozers. they dug all the ground out. They put in new soil, and But here's the thing. In Switzerland, everybody belongs to a village. So you're registered to a village. That is your home village. It might not be the village that you live in. It's through your grandfather.
Genealogy.
Your genealogy. And so if something were to happen to you in which you could no longer care for yourself, that village is to care for you. Okay. So I sound like what? Traumatized? Am I traumatized? Are you kidding me? By drugs? No, I'm not. Keep digging, Jan God. Yeah, so then, like, if you get old and you don't have the money to go into an old folks home or whatever, the village has an old folks home. They take you in, they look after you there. So they have a really, like, it's not a social system, but they have a really good social system for people who are struggling. And if you have mental health issues, you get the help that you need. It's paid for. And then they will also help you to find a job. So they will train you, right? I know people who suffered mental breakdowns. They were in very good care for a couple of years, and then they retrained, did an apprenticeship. It was all paid for. They had an apartment, they had a living wage, and they were able to become productive members of the society, and still are, actually, right? And so, like, I had a friend visit me from Sweden, and she said to me one day, "Where are all the homeless people?" And I said, "There aren't any, because they're all being looked after."
But what separates Switzerland from Sweden in that way? Is it, so I have to think it's got to be the relationality, that there's got to be some person. I don't think it's just the money. I don't think there's got to be some person or some people that are attached and dedicated to getting a person back on their feet. No? Or what it is?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really know if there's one person doing that, but if you think about the fact that direct democracy, Swiss democracy, is very oriented around, like, Switzerland has been neutral for a reason. They fought with each other, until they all swore an oath to protect their boundaries, right? But it gives them and then that's why David Abrams' book was so interesting to me, because they also have an oral culture. And nothing is written down in Swiss. There are no books written in Swiss. They're all written in Schriftdeutsch, right? So, it, like I said before, I think it just gives them a sense of family. They are essentially a family, the whole country. And then there's sections of the family, right? Because there's 22 cantons in Switzerland. So there's 22 states, that run independently. And every one of those has different architecture, different food, different dialects. And they also include Italian, French, Romansh, and Swiss German. 26. That's what it is. Yeah. And not everything in Switzerland is Catholic. So there are Reformed cantons and Catholic cantons.
So let's say I'm a rebellious teenager growing up in Switzerland. What are the potential paths that I could take? Like, would I emigrate to France or Germany or Italy, or would I stay in Switzerland and start a punk rock band? Like, what? I guess what I'm asking is, like, all the different ways in the US that a rebellious youngster can go astray.
I think they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
We had a neighbor with a teenage son that had a mohawk that was, like, I don't know, it was almost like 2.5 feet tall. Like, I used to wonder how long it took him to do his hair in the morning when he'd go to school. And yeah, there's all kinds of people in Switzerland. Like, not everybody is the same. Yeah, it's a pretty open society, actually.
No, I believe that. What I'm trying to better understand is what is the magic sauce, right? Because if they have figured out how to help,
The magic sauce is
yeah,
this, in my opinion.
well, you said the oral tradition.
Well, no, that's just something I'm thinking about now, but I think it's this. Everybody is given a living wage, okay, which makes it very expensive to visit. Okay, because the waitress gets paid 4,000 Swiss francs a month to be a waitress. Everyone is on a monthly salary, okay? And I think the basic living wage in Switzerland now is 4,000 Swiss francs a month. That's the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you have a low paying job, you're still making
middle class income.
I think Swiss francs and US dollars are about the same. Mm-hmm. And so if you are suffering, if you are in social need, like I described earlier, where, like so the village we lived in took in a woman and her children who were homeless because for some reason her husband abandoned her. I don't know what happened to her, but there was an empty house next to ours because the old lady that owned it went into the old folks' home, which also belonged to the village. Okay. And because her home was empty, with her permission, it became available to house this family until they were able to get her back on her feet. So they took the empty home of Frau Hofmann and they put this family in there and they gave the woman a living wage. She did not have to go to work. Women are actually paid to stay home, not by the government, but in the long run. Like your pension as a woman is based on the salary your husband makes. You're given that amount, even though you never worked a day in your life, but you stayed home and raised the children. Okay, so your old age pension is based on his salary and the years that you stayed home to look after your kids. They've got it down to a science, and they've been doing it for a long time, but everybody has to pay lots of taxes because, it's an expensive system.
It somewhat reminds me of what Jordan Hall talks about stumbling across in, I guess it's Western North Carolina. But where that community is based around a church, but everybody looks out for one another. And first we're family. And then second, okay, let's figure out what each person's doing. I don't know, but it's pretty remarkable. I'm visiting this summer. I'm visiting Japan and South Korea with my family. I'm going to keep an eye out for that sort of thing also. Like I just want to really think about people.
Well, I think so. There's advantages and disadvantages to both these things, right? Like, because there's always the other side of the coin, because there's always going to be people that don't really fit into this very tightly functioning system. I think Japan is probably also a good example of this, right? When I lived in Switzerland, when I first moved there, I remember hearing that Switzerland was 5th on the list of the highest rates of suicide in the world.
Wow.
And I think Japan was at the top of that list. But it's because they're both very rigid systems, which allows for a certain amount of freedom for everybody else, but not for those people who don't fit in, right? So, yeah. And there are a lot of social pressures to conform in Switzerland. And I think that's true in Japan too.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I have in-laws that were in Japan and what's up?
I totally forgot.
I can let you go.
I have to go. How embarrassing. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let's
No,
just
no, it's
let
good.
me hear your thought. Let me hear your thought before you go. We got to finish it up.
I had in-laws who are in Japan, and they said you have to always wear long pants, no colored dark shirt, either white or black shirts, and there's no garbage cans anywhere on the street because there's just no littering. And you got to take your shoes off when you enter an establishment. And I don't know, there's just these social conventions that are, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I know. I would ask my mother-in-law, I would say things to her like, well, how come you do it like that? She said, because that's how we do it. That was her answer.
Yeah.
She honestly didn't have anything. She didn't have another answer. So anyway, I'm really sorry about this, Neil. I'm totally double booked myself here.
No, we talked for a little while. We're good. It's good.
Yeah.
Good catching up with you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks,
I'll let you go.
everybody, for joining us. Bye-bye. Bye,
Thank you.
Neil.
Bye-bye.